flowing through your feet.
In the car with the convo, keeping it true. Talking life, talking dreams, bringing insight to you. From the front seat visions to the back seat laughs. We ride through the culture, no brakes, all gas. The car conversations, keep your mind racing. Big heart talk with a bold foundation. Queen, they got the crown. Clay Day got the drive. Together they start what keeps your soul alive. So buckle up, let's cruise the lane where the vibes are deep and the talk ain't plain. It's the show that you needed today. With Queen Day and Clay D, press play.
So I'll remove that, and I'm putting them in now.
Cool. Hello there.
Hello.
Good morning, Clay.
Good morning. How you
How
two
are
doing
you?
this morning? I'm doing
This
just
is
fine.
Clay de Sousa with Clay's Counsel. Clay, I have the directors of Any Problem is No Problem, which premieres at DC Docs tomorrow, the 14th. We'll have 15 minutes. Thank you all.
All
Thanks,
right.
Thanks,
Justin.
Justin.
And
Clay, I like the running interview.
oh yeah, it's a part of I call it Car Chronicles. So I've been doing a lot of interviews for Tribeca Film Festival as well, and South by Southwest London the past 2 weeks, here or there virtually and all that. So I gotta make it work wherever I can. But
Nice.
congratulations on basically this film feature over at DC Docs. How does that feel?
Oh, it's great. We're really excited to be here. It's going to be a pretty cool weekend and for a great festival.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm gonna get right on to it due to time constraints. So if you two could just tell me what drew you to the crypto slash Web3 space as documentary subjects, especially during a turbulent time in March of 2023.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you know about crypto as we did before we got started, you hear what the news media reports, which
Yeah.
is about scams and speculation. But we were curious to look beyond the negative headlines and into the personal stories of young entrepreneurs choosing to start companies in this
Yeah.
space. I think what we found is that sure, there's cryptocurrency and there's NFTs and there's speculation, but if you look at the technology, blockchain technology, which underlies cryptocurrency, NFTs, there's also this Web3 space, which is essentially a new version of the internet that's decentralized. It's not owned by big tech. So creatives, creators, young people starting companies, they can actually create platforms in this space where you can own your own data, right? And people can make a profitable pathway for themselves that isn't dominated by big tech. And so that was really interesting to us. But as filmmakers, like we're interested in people and personal stories. And so we were also really interested to dive into the personal motivations of the young people working in the space.
That's wonderful to hear. I've worked in the tech spaces myself, so I'm always just fascinated by these subject matters, such as crypto, Web3, or obviously the big one is AI now. And it seems as though crypto kind of took a back seat to AI over the basically around right around this time of March 2023. But just given that, how did you two gain access to this tech incubator program? If you could just do a little small deep dive into that, and what convinced these particular entrepreneurs to basically allow cameras into such a vulnerable moment.
Yeah, we really felt fortunate that the crypto startup school extended this invitation for a film crew, our film crew, to kind of come in and really explore the personal stories of the co-founders that were going through this incubator startup school. That was a really, kind of fortunate opportunity for us. And there were 8,000 applicants who applied to the school, and they chose 26 teams to be there. So there were maybe like a little over 50 or 60 people because most of them were paired up. And we, spent a little while really kind of digging into their companies and trying to find companies, being non-crypto native people ourselves, that were easily understandable, that we could really like fully grasp what it was that these crypto companies were doing, right? And so we take like Brandon and Cher, for example. He is making a Web3 company that is kind of like the Web3 of Spotify,
Right.
wherever we understand that musicians, artists are having a hard time making a living right now with the way that the system is set up. And he's trying to kind of disrupt that. And so that was a really interesting opportunity to dig into that space.
Wonderful. But the timing is certainly fascinating, just capturing the founders, trying to build basically in Web3 while the industry faced major scandals. How did that backdrop influence the story that you want to tell? If you can just go a little more into that.
Yeah, so you see in the film that through the kind of news media, like supercuts, kind of what's happening with cryptocurrency in the background of this incubator. And those were really the headwinds that our protagonists were fundraising against. They were sort of in this 3-month incubator getting ready to pitch at demo day while all of this stuff was going on in the background. And they really just had to keep their heads down, keep developing, keep the faith, and hope that by the time they were ready to pitch at demo day, investors were ready to invest.
That's great. That's good to hear. You chose a particular the style mixed in for these intimate interviews. Can you just walk us through that creative decision? How did you balance observational filmmaking with the need to dig deeper into these personal stories?
Sorry,
You're
Clay,
breaking up a little bit,
Yeah,
Clay.
I'll repeat.
can you
Yeah,
repeat the question?
absolutely. So you chose a particular style for these intimate interviews. Just walk us through those creative decisions. So how did you balance observational filmmaking with the need to dig deeper into these personal stories?
Yeah, well, Alyssa and I both have backgrounds in anthropology and ethnographic filmmaking, and we're deeply rooted in this observational style. That's really important for our particular style of filmmaking, to allow our collaborators who are in front of the camera to tell their story as effectively as they can. We tell their stories through their lived experiences. And so that's always kind of our foundation, is letting life unfold in front of the camera. And then we would sit people down for interviews to help contextualize some of these intense moments, or give a little bit of the backstory of what brought them to that moment.
I see. And now the film promises to challenge assumptions about the world of crypto. What assumptions that haven't been mentioned already, or what assumptions did you have going in, and how did they change after this project?
Yeah, I mean, going in, I I'm not a crypto native. I know basically what the average, or I knew what the average person knows about crypto, which is what we see in news media headlines, scams, the sort of boom and bust of the Bitcoin cycle, these NFTs, digital art selling for millions of dollars. I mean, that I had this sort of basic, very general understanding of crypto world from news media. Diving into this world, I learned about Web3, right? Which is a completely different side than the story that's told in the news media. Web3 is this next version of the internet. Right now, we're in Web 2. In Web 2, all of our data essentially is harvested by big tech and sold to marketing companies for the most part. And so in Web3, you can actually surf the internet, you can put your music up on the internet and have a direct relationship with your fans. You can surf the internet anonymously, where your data isn't being packaged and sold to marketing companies, for example. And so that was the side that we essentially learned about through kind of diving into this incubator space and working with these companies who are building platforms for this new version of the internet.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me the most was that some of these co-founders at this crypto startup school who are really focused so intently on developing the Web3 space that a number of them aren't even invested in any cryptocurrency. They see them as completely different. The blockchain is the foundation for these two disparate technologies, basically.
Wow. So in the project, in the film, Demo Day is positioned as this make or break moment. How did you capture that pressure, and what does it reveal about startup culture?
Huh. That's a good question. Well, for starters, the logistics of it was very complicated, right? There were 26 teams pitching. We were following three of them very intently. And so we needed film crews essentially with each of the startup co-founders following them throughout the day, plus a team kind of in the demo day pitch room. So we had over 20 crew members that were orbiting around the hotel where this event took place. And so logistically, it was very complicated because we wanted to make sure that we were there not only for the pitches, but for the behind the scenes emotion that we were really looking to capture because, these are co-founders who had been prepping for and stressing out about this demo day for 3 months, knowing that there were millions of dollars on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, the film does display community forming, basically community building amongst competitors, essentially, since you mentioned everything that happened here. Just tell us about capturing those unexpected relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting is that, the cohort of founders in crypto startup school didn't really experience competitiveness. There was a lot of collaboration. And, every time we turned around, we were seeing these like new relationships being formed with different founder groups talking to each other, saying, "Oh, I didn't realize you were building that." We allude to it, in an interstitial moment or two in the film where you see this kind of like cross-pollination between the founders, and it felt like a really collaborative space where everybody there was trying to lift everybody else up.
Yeah, I think with these, like, especially with like nascent or emerging technology, there's this real builder mindset of like, we can do this and we can do it together. And so there is a really strong sense of community in the Web3 space that was really inspiring
Yeah.
and also quite young and energetic. And that was, also really inspiring to see.
Yeah, kind of the idea that a rising tide, lifts all ships.
I get that for sure. What's next for these entrepreneurs that are featured in the film? What's next on their journey, and how can we follow and support them and see what they have going on?
What? Go ahead.
Yeah, so IYK is working with a number of musicians. They're essentially going on tour and doing their activations at concerts, at shows to enable musicians to connect with fans and fans to connect with musicians. Brandon with Share is really focused on getting more artists onto the platform. So he's really onboarding quite a lot more artists onto the platform. Bello has pivoted a bit. So Ellie has gone off to work for another company, and Adam kind of spun Bello into a meeting place for creators who want to launch a NFT, like a digital art. Um,
Yeah, I mean, they're using their platform and technology. Adam is using the platform and technology that he built with Ellie to help support artists and mentor them through the process with all of the data that they learned about the way that people collect art. into launching their own art collections. So he's created a new business that's supporting artists.
That's great to hear. And just lastly, before we go, how can we support this film basically beyond DC Docs? And especially, how can we follow you two for any future projects and anything that you have going on?
Thanks, Clay. Yeah, the best place to follow the film is on the film's website, which is pretty easy to remember because it's the name of the film. It's anyproblimisnoproblem.com. And there'll be a list of all the events and screenings and activations there, all the news that's happening. And then our company is called Collective Hunch, and we have a website at collectivehunch.com where you can follow other projects that we're working on as well.
Well, thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Zach, for both being here on this Friday during DC Docs weekend and all. And best of luck to you two and this project, and definitely do my part to share and support this film as much as possible. But thank you two for joining Clay's Council here.
We
Thanks,
really
Clay.
appreciate it. Thank you, Clay.
Likewise, take care,
Great to
and
meet you.
thank you, Justin, for coordinating.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Clay. We'll look forward to seeing this. Thank
All
you.
right, have a good one. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.
Artlist.io